Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How are you all today
Welcome.
out there in internet? Already got a few of our friends hanging out with us
Yeah.
today. Jay and Sin and
Welcome everybody. We got so much to talk about.
I feel like
We were
XY will be a fan of Alphabet
yeah,
when it comes.
right. Made just for them. If you quick note at the beginning, if you were here for the Jedi Lost discussion, we have moved that till next week due to breaking news.
But as a consolation prize, you can see the Jedi Lost poster in in the background of your frame. So
Yes. I'm very proud of it. This is up here is
out of frame.
Black Spire. Under frame. This well no, right here is in frame and it is Black Spire. You just can't tell.
How is everyone today? Raylo is in game. That
I mean, there's very contradictory quotes, I feel like, in the article.
It was
Because on the
interesting
one,
that Adam Driver said something specifically about it, though.
yes,
He called it a maybe bond,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't know if maybe bond was a reference to like just like whatever kind of chemistry exists between them, or if that's like
Right,
what he was calling like what we call force Skypes.
yeah, maybe, but like, I feel like on the one hand, those articles were like, their bond is deeper than everyone even realized, but on the other hand, it was also like, yeah, and I'm like, this. I don't. I'm getting very mixed messages by the writing.
A lot of that depends on how much you assume we realized,
Yeah, right, exactly.
because we realized a lot. It will happen for 5 seconds. They both die in a horrible explosion. Maybe so. Maybe that's just how it
So
ends.
that's what happened in Rogue One.
Just everyone dies, fade to black. End of
Yep.
Skywalker saga. Then it's like the Return of the Jedi hizzy, where
Yeah,
it's just all the Force ghosts at the end.
and the little younglings show up. Like, you killed us as children. Oh, it's so good. But yeah, so the article's kind of interesting because I feel like they're really good in there and a lot of very confusing stuff. Like, one part of the article is like, fans have speculated if Richard E. Grant will be playing Hux's father, and I'm like, don't know how to tell you this, but he's not playing Hux's father.
Yeah.
Welcome, Bird Brains. Lurking is fine. I'm like, sorry to say this. No, Daddy Hux is currently space jelly. Not
Courtesy
going to show
of
up in the
Phasma.
movie. Courtesy of Phasma. Maybe y'all should have read her book. Just saying. Hey Dale, welcome. And yeah, Fat Batman. Actually, seeing the Knights of Ren, like I was at work, so I couldn't really freak out. But I was like, holy crap, we're finally gonna see them. It made me really happy. But yeah, shall we start going through the pictures?
Sure. Why don't we just start with the covers?
Yeah.
We get a cover and a Kylo cover.
Yes.
The
Oh
issues are
man.
the same apart from the covers, right?
Yes. And they have. I think Last Jedi had a couple varieties. This one's interesting because they have just the two, and it's just Rey and Kylo. For me personally, oh, there's a link in the description, Dale. Go ahead and check out there. Um, so yeah, I was really excited for these. I think that even if you are not in the Raylo is endgame camp, it's hard to deny that Rey and Kylo are like the two driving forces of
Right.
this trilogy now. And that there are obviously other characters, and the other characters have important stories, but it's about these two's journey
Right.
and kind of being two sides of the same coin, as it were.
I do think it's interesting just to talk about the specifics of the covers that we
Mhm.
get Rey's bow staff again. I mean,
Yes.
we've seen it already in some of the stuff, I feel like.
Yeah.
But for an iconic magazine cover to have the lightsaber like on your belt and
Right.
the bow staff instead. And we also get Kylo Sans reforged mask.
Right, which is another interesting thing because they're making a big deal about his mask coming back.
Meaning,
And
there's
yet he's
also a
not
fair
wearing
amount
it.
of people online that think that the mask coming back is like a twist. There's like a Kylo pretender has the mask,
Oh yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
actually Kylo.
Well, because he's not mending it in the shot, so it's is Kylo wearing it again, or is somebody making it for Kylo and that type of thing. What I do remember from Star Wars Show is now currently talking about the same topic. We started first Star Wars Show.
Yeah, this is our time slot.
Yeah, you wait for us, you Webby Award winning program.
Emmy Award winning program, too. We had Kevin Scott first. That counts.
That's true, too. Dang it. Stop copying us. Anyway, I just got the push notification in case people are wondering where that came from. But, oh, frick. Oh, what I remember was Daisy Ridley got a question about the lightsaber at the episode 9 panel.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that the legacy saber, I don't remember if she called it the legacy saber, but the legacy saber is back. But she said it's not the end of the story. So I'm kind of wondering what that means exactly.
The one that Maz gave her was just a duplicate, and Maz has got the real one back at home in another footlocker.
She just has so many lightsabers just in different parts of the palace. But no, it is interesting that Rey is still leaning on her bow staff so much. I know a lot of people wanted the bow staff saber, but it does. I mean, if she has the saber on her hip, I doubt that bow staff is currently a lightsaber. But maybe that is the end of the story. We don't really know.
Another thing on the cover, just me, is I
Mhm.
wonder how many people are buying this issue just for the article about the crash and burn of Michael Avenatti.
Like all the non-Star Wars people who are like, "Dang it! What is all of this other stuff?"
Went to my local magazine rack because I really needed that Michael Avenatti story. All these Star Wars people have taken it away from me.
Bryan Cranston and Kerry Washington are doing together. I don't know. It's just like. Meanwhile, Vanity Fair, Star Wars. One thing I should point out about the covers, I didn't figure this out for myself. I've seen several people on Twitter say this. Is it appears that Rey's is kind of, if not sunrise, going into the day, and Kylo's appears to be leaving the day, as it were.
Oh.
For some kind of symbolism there, because if you put the two images next to each other, they match, but the lighting's different. Now, what I don't want to do is burst some bubbles, but I'm going to burst some bubbles. I don't think Kylo and Rey are standing there. I don't think that they got Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver to just kind of stand there in different lighting and took those pictures. Those look like production photos of Kylo and Rey that they stuck over New Desert Planet number 8.
I mean, a magazine would use Photoshop in images that it would present to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to believe. XY says maybe she can fix her saber at the top of the staff. I mean, just get some space duct tape and just.
That's right. Gaffer's tape.
Stick it on.
I don't know. There's some kind of Star Wars word for space tape. I don't know.
Gaffer's tape is very expensive. She doesn't have that kind of money laying around.
Just steal it from the crew. There's a gaffer there. My thing with a lot of what's written in the article and a lot of what is presented on some of these images is, I want to jump in and analyze it, but I want to jump in and analyze it from a production standpoint. Like, what does this mean for the story? I'm not really looking at too much of this article in terms of like symbolism, because it's not like J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy sat these people down and were like, okay, here are the themes of the movie. We need you to reflect this in your photo. No, this was
Right.
the people who wrote the article and took pictures, decided what they thought the themes were, and took pictures accordingly. So you're seeing anything you're looking at here, you got to understand, is through the influence of these journalists, which is fine. And they might not even be wrong, but everything is being done through that frame. And even like the sunrise sunset backgrounds with Kylo and Rey are decisions of the artist taking the photo, and JJ is not there taking notes going, psst, you figured it out. You know what I mean?
One thing from the articles that kind of felt like speculation, that the people who wrote the articles made it seem really important, but then I also rolled my eyes at because it came from Anthony Daniels. I don't trust him with insider information anymore.
I don't trust him at all anymore. No.
But apparently his first line was like a difficult line for him to be able to learn. It's because it uses the phrase "common emblem." I don't like the article made it sound like that's like opening line of the film, "common emblem" something.
Right, common emblem. That's a weird opening line. Common emblem. What? Like, it's not even a full sentence, 3PO. But yeah, the snow planet looks cool. I've been seeing some stuff on Twitter where people think the snow planet, or like, it might not be a snow planet, but a planet that has snow on it, is the same shot of the speeder like flying down towards the city at nighttime. Because if you pause that shot, it looks like there could be snow in the air. Again, I'm stealing that from stuff I saw on Twitter. Yes, Dale. Carrie Russell does look amazing. Jay, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what I believe anymore, because they were like, Kylo's fighting the Knights of Ren, and then they were like, no, he's not. Just kidding. We take it back. Like, what's weird is everything they've put in this article so far.
There's the Carrie Russell picture.
Hello, Neil. Welcome.
It's a pretty awesome looking costume.
Oh, it's so good. She did say that her costume was great. So, do you think being Supreme Leader comes with good benefits? Does Kylo have good health insurance? I would hope so. Did the First Order help him set up his 401k? I mean, maybe, but the question is, does the First Order like even have an economy that can support a 401k? But yeah, no, I'm excited for Carrie Russell's character. She seems to be some sort of bounty hunter-esque person.
Definitely has like a almost Mandalorian feel to it. Not quite.
Yeah. Almost like what an assassin from Canto Bight would look like, I feel like. But I think so. Like I was saying, like I'm trying not to read too much into the symbolism of Rey's mom. Everyone is Rey's mom. We are all Rey's mom.
Rey's mom is the friends we made along the way.
It's sad that we both just made that joke. But yeah, so I'm a little wary to draw too much symbolism in anything that we're seeing, especially from the covers, because those are going to be through the lens of the people crafting the article. Which, I mean, they're still stunning images. But things that have me really interested are shots like seeing who all is on the desert world. Like, I remember when we saw the trailer, we were like, is it Tatooine? Is it Jakku? Is it Jeddah? Like any of the other possible desert planets?
Right.
Hey, Bear, welcome. But now it's just another desert planet, so there you go. But the Knights of Ren are on this new world. I'm presuming Kylo is presumably flying the TIE fighter in the trailer, even though it's not fully confirmed, but it's illogical. Rey's obviously there. Poe and Finn are obviously there. People noted that there was no Rose in any of the photos. I think that could be largely because she may not be in the desert scenes, and those might be when they booked the photographer. Right. And then because the only non-desert shots are the new characters really is Richard E. Grant and Kerry Russell's character, and obviously they're going to want to reveal the looks of the new characters, and then there's the Kylo and Rey fighting somewhere. Yeah, I noticed that too. So the Knights of Ren have no lightsabers. Also, hi Jared, welcome. But it's interesting to me that the Knights of Ren have no lightsabers, because I think we were all under the impression that the Knights of Ren were Luke's leftover students,
right?
Like the ones that didn't die on Kylo's attack on the temple. The articles were listing something interesting. They were saying like the Knights of Ren were the ones that initially tempted Kylo, which is odd because we've been led to believe by several film sources that it was Snoke. So I wonder if that's I wonder if this is a reversal, if this is a twist, like it was really the Knights of Ren the whole time, or is it that the Knights of Ren have been with Snoke? So Snoke used the Knights of Ren to corrupt and form Kylo. I think there's a certain point of view answer and if they're in league with Snoke, it could explain why Kylo is presumably fighting them if he's actually fighting them and it wasn't a mistake.
Also makes me wonder still if all the other Knights of Ren are also named something Ren.
Right.
Kevin Ren and
Larry Wren, Susan Wren. There's got to be one. There's probably one chick. Are they implying a connection between Core and the Acolytes of the Beyond? Maybe. I'd be impressed if the writer of this article knew what the Acolytes of the Beyond is, to be honest. That would imply that he also is capable of using Wikipedia, which, based on his article, I'm not sure he is. But that's fine. I shouldn't trash this guy who's wildly more successful than I am, but I'm like, did you do any Star Wars research before you wrote a Star Wars article? I'm not sure. But yeah, Dale, I see the Mad Max feels, and I mean, I'm rereading the Aftermath trilogy right now, and Empire's End is super Mad Max.
yeah, for sure.
And so is Phasma. So this era in Star Wars, it fits that very well. Jake Holmgren. Richard E. Grant does look really cool. But anyway, what I was trying to say is, what I like seeing out of these images is who is where when.
Right.
Yeah. And it seems like so much of this is desert. Oh, I take it back. I feel like Finn and Janna's characters might be on the grassland area where we see the Death Star. But again, that's an image away from the desert, but it's revealing a new character. And to be honest, that image looks really doctored too. Like it looks very like a lot of these. I mean, it's largely her style, but a lot of them feel very like added and in post kind of. And I might be making that up, but like the way Finn and Janna are like frozen.
Well, and the way that they are riding dinosaur horses,
right?
doesn't strike me as merely something that Annie Leibovitz took a picture of on set.
Right. With the way the wind, I mean, like, because for Janna to be sitting that way, like, unless Naomi Ackie is that beast, she's not sitting like that without wires. So like the images, no, I know they're real. I'm saying this image though isn't like there's something up with this image. Like the way the lighting looks very digital. The hair looks kind of odd. And again, like Naomi Ackie is not sitting like that on that horse without wires. Like there's something up with that image. So at the very least, they've taken wires out of the picture. But that's the other one. So I feel like whatever's going on there is whatever planet has the Death Star.
Of that crossbow, or that gets just the bow and arrow.
Yeah, it's so cool. I was saying, I think the only other time we've seen that in Star Wars is the Knights of Ren, the Night Sisters. So it's cool to see something bow and arrowy in Star Wars on the big screen. But no, I'm excited. So what's interesting then is we have the Knights of Ren on the desert world. We have Kylo on the desert world in the TIE Fighter. And we have Finn and Poe on a big adventure there. And then we haven't seen anything of Janna anywhere that isn't this kind of grassland world. Like even the image we saw of her at Celebration was like that. And then the grassland world is what looks like the Death Star to me. We have Rey and Kylo fighting on what could be Death Star wreckage. And then we have, I mean, spaceships with Richard E. Grant. We have the snowy world with Carrie Russell. A lot of people are noting that there's no Rose. I think that's largely because everything we've seen from Rose looks like it's on whatever planet they have Leia on. And it's just possible that they didn't, you know, she just might not have been around for the photo shoot.
So one thing I noticed on this picture of
I don't want that fat Batman.
of Rey and Kylo fighting. Is this the snow planet? I think because when I first saw the image, it looked like they're fighting in a snowstorm. But then when you watch the video, they're like fighting in like an actual storm with water. I almost wonder if this is not Octo.
Oh, it could be. It's just a lot of people are speculating that they're fighting on the Death Star wreckage. But I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily going to be a thing. Yeah, we only see R2 with Luke, Neil, but I think what people are forgetting is this is like maybe a dozen photos from probably 2 days of shooting. Like, I wouldn't really read too much into how many people are in how many images. I don't know that that's really helpful.
So with this picture of Luke and R2, like, what do your instincts tell you about what we're seeing in this picture? Because my first instinct was this is flashback again to Kylo burning the temple, but this is not young flashback Luke. This is old man long hair Luke. So this Force ghost Luke? Is it something else? I don't know. What do your instincts tell you about this?
I mean, I went through the same mental journey you did. It looks like the temple burning. I kind of wonder if it's not a combination of a Force ghost and a flashback. One of the things one of the articles talked about, we learned that they're going to go into the origins of the First Order a little bit. So I could see Luke taking Rey through a kind of, to use a Legends term, flow walking kind of moment. And as I understand it, flow walking is not so much time travel. Like, you travel to the past, but you can't affect it. You're just looking at it. You're just observing it. It's like VR of the past.
Ghost of Life Day Past.
Exactly. He's the ghost of Life Day Past. taking Leia back so she can learn how to fight the ski resort.
Yeah.
This is a real inside joke from a few weeks ago. Sorry, guys.
Interesting to me though too, because like the combination of Luke and R2 is always iconic. But like, if that's what it is, like, why is R2 there? Like, is R2 just happened to be there in like whatever slow walking flashbacky thing is happening? Because like it's the combination of Luke and R2 which makes sense most of the time that kind of throws me off now, because
I feel like when we saw in was it TL? It would have had to have been TLJ. When Luke is describing waking up and looking at the temple, he's like leaning on R2. So maybe he's like able to go back in time to any point where he was. Yeah, so we're seeing the representation of Ghost Luke, where younger Luke is next to R2 looking at the temple being burned. Does that make sense?
Like Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
He's jumping from timeline to timeline, striving to make right what went wrong.
Oh gosh, between J.J. Abrams and Endgame, I'm so terrified for time travel in this movie. It's like, please, J.J., just once, don't do it. Just please don't do it. Please don't.
Jay says, "Is that a
glove
glove
or
or
his
his hand?" I don't know. It's the hand that would have been missing, but he had a glove on it prior to the sequel trilogy, so maybe he just stuck it back. That's right.
Yeah, he's wearing a glove, but JJ, you know he's gonna do it. Oh, please don't. Just don't. Like,
maybe they're
we're
just
gonna
all
bring
in
back.
purgatory the whole time.
My gosh. Or, we're gonna bring back Palpatine from the past and everyone's gonna fight him, only Palpatine's not gonna know who any of them is, so it robs so much of the emotional value of the end fight. I mean, we're talking about the Rise of Skywalker now.
And it's like super young Palpatine, like 18-year-old Palpatine.
I mean, Matt Smith, right? They haven't confirmed if he is or isn't in the movie.
It's like
the other big controversy is they literally won't say if Matt Smith is or isn't in the movie. Like, all right. So you time travel like Back to the Future 2 and turn, you couldn't just go back in time. Yeah, exactly. That is also part of the vision. Yeah, and well, people have wondered too, because in the vision Rey has, it's nighttime and she's dueling Kylo in the rain. And
what now?
It's night in her vision. It's nighttime, and then in the picture she's dueling Kylo in like water falling. Dueling.
Kylo.
I mean, I wouldn't complain, but I said dueling.
I got you now. Palpatine is inevitable. What? I don't know. This I've made this my background on all the things now because I love.
The colors in it are really amazing.
This is another image that got me very, very excited. The cockpit of the Falcon.
Yes.
That is just oozing charisma. Like everything about this image just makes me need to spend some alone time in my bunk.
It's just like, do you think Poe finds Lando's closet and is like, I've never worn a cape, but maybe I could pull a cape off.
That's the first thing Lando does when he gets back on the Falcon. Is clean out.
Room.
This is my cave closet. Whatever stuff Han had stored here, this is the cape room.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so good. No, I'm excited. I think it's interesting that Lando is basically wearing the same thing he wore in Solo, and I'm not sure if that's like an Easter egg that also doesn't make sense, or if there's going to be a reason for that.
And kind of just how he was wearing Han Solo's clothes.
Yeah.
At the end of Empire.
Well, maybe they find him and he needs a new shirt, so he goes back to his cape room and is like, well, there you go.
Han left it there. Years.
He never actually touched the cape room. He's like, I don't know what to do with these things. It would be cool if there was an L3 reference.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about this image, that Chewie is not.
Yeah.
But I guess I can get over that.
It looks like they've made the co-pilot seat not Wookiee size. I wonder if that's for the image or because it's changed in the movie. So XY says, I hope Palps haunts the Death Star and starts possessing people, but is unable to leave the site of his death. Yes. So in current canon, the only way Darksiders can maintain identity after death is by being trapped in an object. They can't be forced in the way that like Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon or Anakin or Yoda or presumably Luke can be. So I think it's possible that he can be trapped in the Death Star. But that's if that's the route they go on, that's going to be interesting to me because how is Palpatine like having machinations as a ghost from the Death Star? I'm really curious on Snoke and Palpatine's relationship. And yeah, Jay, that's possible. The thing is Palpatine says two totally different things in Revenge of the Sith. At one point, he's like, his apprentice taught him everything he knew, and at a different point, he's like, the power to cheat death is the power only one has achieved. So.
And then he
Palpatine
also tells
Anakin somewhere.
He also tells Anakin you have to work together to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. So huge news, but and so kind of like looking at these images, I feel like the world, like the lush world that we saw more at Celebration Stills, is almost going to be like the beginning of the film. Like Rose is going to be there doing resistance things, and then they're going to kind of go out on this adventure from there. I also just feel like it's going to be easier to put Leia at the beginning of the film and then write what comes after, as opposed to like writing Leia into the end of the film. And you know, they go on the journey, and then it's just kind of a series of events thing, like what takes them to the desert world. I kind of wonder if you're going to get a Palpatine observatory there somewhere, but it's interesting because you have Kylo in the Knights of Ren on the desert world, but then you also have the planet where Kylo is supposedly fighting the Knights of Ren, which we saw in the trailer. And that's a very different world that has the red lighting, and there's white things falling from the sky, so people were never sure if it was snow or ash, but it could be the snow from the world that Kerry Russell is from.
And that fight being between Kylo and the Knights of Ren was both confirmed and then denied by Vanity Fair.
What's interesting is if he is fighting the Knights of Ren, the stormtroopers are on his side. Or at least that's how it appears in the trailer. So you beat down with Spooky Ghost Palpatine, haunting the Death Star. Big plot twist, as it turns out, is crossover Scooby-Doo. I think he would use that as a way to keep manipulating Anakin rather than giving him a happy life. Padme is the enemy. Oh, you're going back to Revenge of the Sith. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Kylo and the Rens, the Han span this side of Camino, and the remains of the Death Star. Yeah. And so I think this grassland world with Janna is where the Death Star is, and they go there and find her. I do kind of wonder if Rey and Poe and Finn are going to stay together through the majority of the movie, or if they are going to separate again, with Rey going on whatever journey takes her to Kylo. But if she and Kylo are fighting, I'll say fighting because it's easier to hear. If they are fighting on top of the Death Star, then that does take them to the grassland world.
I could see something like that with that. Having found some kind of ruins or artifacts of something. I don't see anything, honestly, like that becoming a huge...
Now, with this article, what do you think in terms of the tone going in? Because there's been a big to-do made out of JJ said seeing The Last Jedi kind of changed things for him and made him want to play this one not quite as safe. Like, do you think he's saying that, or do you think we're going to actually see JJ Abrams not play it safe for once?
I mean, I don't know. I can kind of see it both ways. That being the case, something different. I don't buy for a second that JJ feels he needs to fix it.
Oh, absolutely not. I don't buy that at all.
But I can see him willing to be a little bit more adventurous, but I still feel like JJ adventurous is other people.
Right.
But also, as Finn points out, JJ lies. So,
JJ point blank lies all of the time. Like, I feel like Dave Filoni is the master of not answering your question. JJ's like, I'll answer your question with untruth.
Yeah.
And that's how the two operate.
He's justifying the amount of lens.
Yep.
That's the First Order's new weapon. It's not an actual weapon. It's just a really intense lens flare.
It's a lot of lens flare. Matt Smith is playing the lens flare, actually.
The lens flare is Ray's mom.
She is born of the light.
The darkness rises and the lens flare to meet it.
I think that's going to be our new campaign. Ray's mom is the lens flare. I'd be there for it. I also am wondering if JJ's like, now I can take risks and do things that aren't explicitly Star Wars. So, time travel.
Oh, here's Captain Picard.
This is not Star Wars, and we're gonna make it Star Wars now. It's fine,
Matt
guys.
Smith as the Doctor.
He just shows up. That's so ridiculous, I wouldn't even be mad.
Oh, that Batman says as long as we don't get Scar Killer Base 2, I'll be fine. I do want to mention that more than just a joke, though, because one, I don't want Star. But
right.
The article says, like, the article kind of addressed that. Like, they would be dumb to do that again, wouldn't they? And, like, the way the article talked about that, I couldn't tell if this was the person writing the article making a joke or, like, knowing something. I'm like, please, no. Like,
no, I think less likely than Starkiller Base 2 is the ghost of Palpatine possesses Star, then you have like a floating Death Star ghost. It can just operate as a super weapon. I don't know. They could do some things. Let's just say they could do some things. But yeah, I think that's kind of my figuring though. Is there's the lush. You start on the lush planet. Carrie Russell probably leaves the snow place to find them, or they go there, or maybe Kylo and the Knights of Ren are there, and so the heroes go there, and then that sends them to the desert planet. But you don't see anything of Jannah or Pride, which is Richard E. Grant's character, or what was Carrie Russell's character name? It was like Bliss, I think. You don't see them anywhere else, but again, I think that's in large part to maybe they're not in the desert. And it's just a question of how, and maybe I have it the complete opposite. Maybe the movie opens on the desert. And Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren showing up is what instigates them the whole rest of the film. I think, like, to me, I guess that would make I don't know. There's a lot of different ways this could go. Obviously, once we get a full theatrical trailer, we're gonna feel like we know a little bit more. Do you think there will be infighting in the first O on a large scale? Yes, I do. I think that there's going to be a feud between Kylo and Hux. I don't think the Resistance is going to defeat the First Order. I think the First Order is going to defeat itself.
I've always maintained that Kylo Ren doesn't give two fricks about the First Order.
Not at all.
First Order is useful to him as a means to an end. I don't think he's interested in running a fascist galactic government. Or
right.
Has his own personal goals and, is fine with whatever contributes towards that. Whereas, with Hux, like Hux was literally raised and brainwashed to be all about the First.
Right. Real quick, Jay, as I understand it, General and Admiral are different. General is usually troops and Admirals is ships. So Hux and Pride could be they could be equals under different forms of command. Yeah, what XY said. And no, I agree. I always thought Kylo wanted to be Supreme Leader because he's so sick of people telling him what to do. and he's so sick of being an underling, and he's so sick of being used. And I think he wants to be Supreme Leader because then no one can use him anymore. And then he's going to be Supreme Leader and realize it is not what he thought it was.
So much paperwork.
So much paperwork. And Hux loves paperwork. Hux seems like the guy who would love paperwork. Like he just gets a high out of sitting there doing W-2s. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I love a really well done form.
Stapler.
He's got like different pins. Perfect. He insists on still doing them on flimsy plast.
Yeah. So what other of these images out to you? I mean, a lot of these are just set images of like, 3PO and
right.
And just kind of on set hanging out. Like those seem a little bit different than some of these that seem to be more like from the film production kind of stuff behind the scenes.
Right. I feel like, I mean, seeing behind the scenes is really cool. It's funny to me seeing big expensive cameras just sitting in sand. I'm interested in what the locals, the Aki are going to be like. Are they showing us these guys because they're cool and it's cool because they used locals, or are they showing us because they're going to be like a big part?
I mean, that was kind of my assumption, is that it's just a cool picture show.
Yeah.
They could also be like like a Jeddah kind of thing if Rey is still trying to find like other Force users. Jedi places. They could be like something like the different priest orders.
Yeah. I'd say, another thing that kind of, I just realized Rey has a hood. If you look at the shot of her from the side with JJ and the camera on a track, she's got a hood. That's pretty cool. The other thing that kind of makes me wonder if this planet, the desert planet, isn't going to be the beginning, is what we were saying earlier about the cover. She's using the bow staff in so many images, as opposed to using her lightsaber. And so, like, maybe the part with the TIE fighter is kind of the reveal that she's fixed it,
Right.
But at the same time, we know the Jordan shoot was last. And films obviously can be shot out of order, but, emotionally speaking, would they want to shoot the beginning of the film last? I don't know. That just my point was, like, there's probably better times of the year to be in Jordan than not. But I'm kind of curious. I would assume that Grant's character with Gleason, they're going to be teaming up against Kylo.
I mean, my assumption is that if Kylo is not 100% on board with the First Order for the whole film, that they would just need another character besides Hux.
Right.
Kind of a, like, not just in universe, but like a narrative thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially if, and I won't believe this is true until the credits roll, but especially if Phasma is actually.
Right. Well, and like Kerry Russell's character lends more weight to Phasma not actually being back, which would be too bad. However, even if Phasma is not a 9, I'm still not going to believe that she died, because if Boba frickin' Fett can crawl out of a Sarlacc pit, I'm just saying, the expanded, and Maul can be not cut in half anymore. We can get Phasma back, expanded universe.
It's Spider Phasma.
Spider Phasma. I'm here for it. Sure, I love George. Who's your life? I wonder if Ren is another Force sensitive. I wonder if Ren is another Force sensitive. Ren created the Knights of Ren and named Kylo the master of the... Oh, I see. Like, whoever created the Knights of Ren is another Force sensitive. I mean, it comes down to, are the Knights of Ren going to be Force sensitive or not? They could be, even if they don't have lightsabers. I mean, Rey is using her bow staff, and we know she's Force sensitive. So, I mean, we're used to it because the Jedi and the Sith of old used lightsabers because they're an elegant weapon from a more civilized age. That doesn't mean we're not going to see, the Knights of Ren can have whatever weapons they want and still be Force sensitive. Right? And no one in Star Wars that falls actually dies. Total fake out.
Including Palpatine, apparently.
Including Palpatine. If you fall, you're not dead.
What if Ghost, whatever, Palpatine, Undead Phasma, hey, that armor looks a whole lot like a ship I used to
have. Speaking of moments, I tweeted this from the Port Haven account, and this is, like, I'm trying not to need things from this film. Like, I'm trying really hard to learn the lesson of The Last Jedi and not need things from a story and to let the story happen. But, like, it's so hard for me not to need this. But, like, I want a scene, like, some sort of final climactic thing between Kylo and Palpatine where he's like, come, boy, finish what your grandfather started. And I just get chills and freak out a little bit. The articles and the images, how do they make you feel about Bendemption?
I've talked about. It's always something kind of expect more often than...
Yeah.
It's not a thing to have a emotional day. The fact that we appears to be lightsaber duel Kylo, I didn't know if we were going
to... Right.
After together in the last film.
Right.
The fact that there is a lightsaber. In order for that to happen, like, what does that mean in terms of Bendemption?
Right.
Because that would have to be film. Redemption would have to come as a result of after whatever leads them to fight one another. I mean, and like, there was a lot of speculation after the teaser that, the whole scene with the TIE fighter is a training. And I'm not saying that it's not, but what they're doing in that image is, don't just spar on out in the rain in a storm, water.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is if they're really fighting on the Death Star wreckage, that has to be more towards the end of the film. And that's kind of how I'm feeling too, because, like, on the one hand, if Kylo really is fighting the Knights of Ren, that made me think more likely that he was turning from the dark, except for if that scene is true, the stormtroopers are helping him fight the Knights of Ren. Hello, John, welcome. So, like, if he is fighting the Knights of Ren, it could be that the Knights of Ren are more pure than he is at that point. At that, but I don't know, like, just because they're fighting at the end doesn't mean, like, they can't come around. Like, if the idea of possession is really happening, he could be possessed there, and then gets unpossessed, which would be a quick way to turn the fight. But no, I agree, they're not sparring there, and that does make it seem like they might. You still kind of go back to that shot of the TIE fighter in the trailer, and he's not firing at her, unless he is firing at her, and he's not firing at her in the trailer, if they pull a Marvel on the trailer. But there's many things that I read and saw that made me feel more hopeful about Bendemption, and then there's many things I read that made me less. You know, there were several quotes in the articles about how cultures change, Star Wars can change with culture, and that we need like clearly defined good and bad characters. And I get that, but I'm also kind of like, yeah, but we have Hux and Pride. Like, we can, like, Kylo doesn't necessarily have to have that. And I still feel like we've come off of 3 Star Wars films between Rogue One and 7 and 8 that were all about hope.
Right.
And hope and hope and hope. And it was like a drinking game in Rogue One anytime somebody said the word hope. And then to go from that to a movie where, like, if everyone who is a good guy is a good guy and everyone who's a bad guy is a bad guy, that just doesn't feel like as Star Wars to me. Not that I necessarily need full old ladies across the street kind of a thing, but like just some kind of sense that he's aware of what he was doing.
Right. I don't know. I mean, a lot of it depends on what we mean by redemption, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But even on top of that, I don't know. But that image more than anything else is the one that makes me question what I thought or expected before the release of the article and the image.
Yeah. Well, and to kind of have that go off of the cover of the making of the Rise of Skywalker,
Mm-hmm.
the one where it looks like Rey is on the desert world, Kylo could be on whatever world has the Death Star there. And I think that plays into it. Like, I feel like that's relevant because in that image it's a little bit hard to see what they're doing because they're
Right.
using their lightsabers, and it was like, okay, is that just because it's a cool cover? And I had kind of wondered how much that image was thematic concept art to show like the meaning of the film, and how much of that was concept art for creating a circumstance that's going to happen in the film. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it's also possible. I don't really know what this would mean, but you know, this image that we see of Ben and Rey, you know, it could be, you know, some sort of vision, or you know, it could be a Force Skype, but with with lightsabers. I don't know.
Right.
Like it's an assumption to take it, you know, that it is what it appears to be in the first place. So I don't really know.
Yeah, and to go off of what Sin's saying, with, you know, JJ being Mr. Mystery Box, I just don't think we know anything. We're really like, I feel like what we're being presented is picked very specifically. And I
Right.
think that's why that thing about the Knights of Ren got redacted. I think that it's very possible that it's true, and they didn't want it out there. In the same way that John Boyega was quoted as saying the film is about a year later. And then John was like, I don't remember that interview. And now it's like increasingly being said a year later.
Right.
So I think that almost anything that's in an image was chosen for us to see,
Right.
and is designed to take us down a path of this is what's going to happen. So seeing Kylo and Rey in a duel is to make us think the logical thing that their fight is the climactic end, which will also make sense because, you know, Star Wars movies do typically end with a battle like that.
Right.
But if JJ's letting us see it now, there's more to the story.
I mean, I do think it would also be like, if that was the climax of the film, I think it would be strange for us to see that in a promotional thing this far out too. But
you know, I think that's very targeted versus picking apart the things that the journalist said, and then had to unsay, as it were, where that's a little bit less controlled. Oh, it's funny to me that got put in the article because I feel like whoever wrote that for Vanity Fair, like, should have sent the article to Lucasfilm Publishing and be like, this is what I'm going to publish.
Right.
Did I say anything I'm not supposed to say?
I mean,
I do that.
I was about to say, we have to do that with Lucasfilm when we have official people involved with things.
we have to send them the questions ahead of time, and when we've done interviews with people, I've always let the people we interview view it before we make it public, or at least offer to let them see it before we make it public. And it's just funny to me that Vanity Fair either didn't do that, or whoever they showed it to was way more loose than that person should have been.
Yeah,
Concept art, we can't. Okay, yeah, we can't know until we see. It's cool to speculate. Yeah, and funny that it would be the twist. Not the twist this time around is that there is no twist. We play it ourselves. It's funny. Like I said, I feel like there's so much to talk about, and I was so excited about the images. But at the same time, I feel like they're images. Like, I feel like I'm excited to get to know these characters. I'm excited to see what happens. Just what is going to be. It's hard for me to put them in any kind of context. And I don't personally trust the framing of the article or the images as it being Lucasfilm's vision. I trust it as being the journalist's vision, and the journalist didn't even mention Kylo as an option for the title. Like, I watched one of the videos and he's like, people wonder what the title means. Maybe it's Rey, or maybe it's a new Force Order. And I'm like, or maybe it's the Skywalker descendant that we know exists.
Right.
Like, I get not thinking it's Kylo. It's fine if you don't think it's Kylo, but not even putting that on the list of options was weird to me.
It's Lando Skywalker.
Lando is the last Skywalker, obviously. They're leading us down the path to the dark side. Yeah.
So, anything else from the images or the articles you want to hit on before we wrap things up?
I mean, I'm just excited, I guess. We went from not seeing anything, not even knowing a title till April, which made me nervous because of the whole debacle that was Solo's marketing campaign. But even if I think we're being manipulated by the images we see, the fact that we have seen, what we have seen is really cool to me. And I'm excited to be manipulated by the marketing for the next several months.
Maybe so. I'm just glad that there is marketing.
Right.
Contrary to what Bob Iger said they needed.
Thinks. Yeah, according to Bob Iger, Galaxy's Edge advertises itself.
That's why they have a whole line of books and comics.
Right.
But
that is still my only takeaway from that call that we listened to, was Bob Iger saying, we don't need advertising. I'm like, Bob.
But Lando's actually married to I had her name there for a second in my head.
The chick from Last Shot?
Yeah, her name came to mind. I'm surprised it did, and then it went away just as quickly. But yeah, Lando, I don't know that we actually see him get hitched, but in a relationship.
Yeah, let's see if I can just turn to a page and magically find her. No, I just keep finding the Ewok. Peekpa, the hacker Ewok.
Anybody in the chat have thoughts or questions you want to talk about really quick before we wrap things up?
And then, assuming there is no breaking news next week, we will actually talk about Dooku Jedi Lost next week.
Yep, that is the plan. That was the plan for today, and then we called an audible right at the last minute.
Speaking of, did we do our obligatory Kevin Scott reference this week? I don't think we made one in.
I did earlier because I talked about how we had him before the Star Wars.
Oh, there you go. There we go. We got the obligatory Kevin Scott reference in anyway. We're good. We're solid.
I should make a scene in OBS that the first time we mention, or every time we mention Kevin Scott, I can just flip to it.
Obligatory Kevin Scott message. When I told him that we talk about him every week, I couldn't tell if he was flattered or horrified. And honestly, I would understand either reaction.
But next week it's going to be all Kevin Scott minus
it's gonna be. We'll have to think of ways to like not talk about him.
More Kevin Scott than any streamcast except the one where he was here.
Has Kevin Scott on
it. But I do think that's going to do it for us today.
Yeah, we spent the last 2 minutes talking about Kevin Scott, so we're fine.
But you can find us on all of the social media below me on the screen there, our Twitter and Instagram and our blog site. If you have not already, go ahead and hit that like button or the dislike button if that's how you feel. On the stream, it lets us know that you were here and gives us all that fancy algorithm help. Even if you hit the dislike button, it helps out more than a good thing.
Yes, it does. And I agree with what Jay's saying. The Rey and Kylo as two sides of the same coin is interesting to me. Like Rey not understanding why Kylo would reject his family. And that came up in The Last Jedi. That's not something that's just coming up in TRoS. But yeah.
I'm reading Balance Point right now, and I'm getting all sorts of Solo family drama. So that's where my head is at. Yeah. But you can find us on Facebook. We still have, well, I'm assuming we didn't post racy stuff. I'm assuming we still have a Tumblr out there somewhere that if anybody wants to try to find that.
It's yours.
But also, you should, if you have not already, join our Discord that is linked in the description, because when we change topics at the very last minute, that is one place where you can find that information for sure. So we posted it on everything else today, but Discord is where not only where we have continuing conversations about some of these things, but where we talk about our plan and schedule and things.
And where you can give us ideas on what we should be talking about.
And where you can participate in that draw chopper challenge that we started like 5 months ago.
We should just make a video just about Blue, because he's the only one that did it.
Just pretend that it's multiple submissions and just show the same one over and over.
Yes, and Blue would love it. I would be all for it. You should do that.
But that's gonna do it for us today, guys.
Right,
we will see